Shalom, this is Daniel Stern coming at you from our offices. Here we are in the Netivyah building. Today is Thursday, which might be a little bit shocking to all of you because you're used to seeing me on Wednesday. But unfortunately, yesterday we were swamped, so this is coming out today. It is not because of any news-related issue. It's just we were busy. Apologies, forgive me. Moving on. As you know, if you've been keeping up with our videos, that I still owe you an explanation about some of the judicial and legal matters here in Israel, such as Netanyahu's court cases and the judicial reform, but that is going to wait. We could give you some more Syria updates, but nothing much has developed, even though there is a very large increase in the tension between Turkey and the Kurds. So we'll see. It's possible something will develop there over the weekend, but we'll touch on that later. There has been some development regarding a hostage negotiation. Personally, I was sure that on Tuesday we would hear something final on that regard, but it didn't happen. So when that develops, I'll be sure to update you. Maybe that's what we'll do next video. Maybe we'll talk about the current information regarding the hostage deal on the table. I did promise you another update on South Korea, so we'll try to do that at the end. But today's focus is going to be about the relationship, the tension, the situation between Yemen and in particular the Houthis that control somewhere between half and most of Yemen and are backed by Iran, and between Israel. So obviously, I'm not going to go back and tell you all about the Houthis taking over of Yemen and their conflict with Saudi Arabia and so on and so forth. I'll just briefly say that, as I'm sure most of you know, the Houthis, when the October 7th happened and later when Israel did what it needed to do and went into Gaza, then the Houthis started attacking the shipping lanes in the Red Sea, disrupting international shipping, which of course is totally unacceptable, and also sending missiles and drones to Israel. And most of the retaliation, and I use air quotes to indicate that it was very weak and not very effective, was done by the United States, the United Kingdom, and others. Israel was asked to not retaliate, similar to against Saddam Hussein in the first Gulf War. So we left the retaliation to others, and it was not very effective. They keep sending missiles, not very many, but it's quite a nuisance. And I'll explain why, because as you've heard, the Hamas shot dozens, hundreds, and thousands of rockets into Israel. Hezbollah shot hundreds and thousands of rockets into Israel, I believe over 10,000 since October 7th. And the Houthis have only shot, quote unquote, have only shot dozens. And then what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is that the missiles that are shot by the Houthis are extremely large hypersonic missiles. Each one of them is about 16 meters long. That's about 17 yards for you on the other side of the pond. And that means it's like a 5-story building. Each of them weighs 16 metric tons and has half a ton of explosives and could carry a biological warhead or a chemical warhead or even a nuclear warhead, even though the Houthis currently don't have nukes, but that type of missile. So, and here's where it continues. So they go and they travel at between 5,000 and 10,000 kilometers an hour. That is about 10 times the speed of your Boeing 757 that took you across the Atlantic last time. They're large, heavy, fast, and with a large payload of explosives. And what it means is when Israel intercepts them, then they have to intercept them with large interceptors. The interceptors are 7 meters long, almost half the size of the missile. The interceptors weigh about 1.5 tons, 1.3, and they need to be shot very, very quickly. And in the air, the interceptor also has to, of its own technology, attack the warhead part of the missile, because there's a separation when it enters the atmosphere between the part that carried most of the missile and the rest of it. So we need to attack the warhead part, but the rest of it is still a very large, very heavy, very fast item that's fallen and can cause considerable damage. So then, once the warhead is hit, and not every hit is a perfect elimination, sometimes it just diverts its course, then the operators need to, within a split second, decide if they're going to send a second or a third or a fourth interceptor, if they want to hit the shuttle, or whether its trajectory seems to be sending it to an uninhabited area. So all of this, what does all of this mean practically? That was all a lot of techno-military mumbo-jumbo. But practically it means that when such a missile is shot, and the most recent one was at 2:30 a.m. when everyone was fast asleep, then the alarms and sirens go off in a very, very, very wide area. And not just in one city, but in many, many, many cities. For example, this morning at 2:30 in the morning, people could hear the explosions in Jerusalem, in Tel Aviv, in Ramat HaSharon, in Ashdod. All over, people could hear one missile, the consequences of one missile. And now, obviously, praise God that Israel is as prepared as it is, and we have interceptors, and all those people that woke up at 2:30 in the morning could go down to a shelter and spend 10 minutes in a shelter and then come out and continue their lives and go back to bed. But it's not a pleasant situation. And consequently, Israel, and not for the first time, sent a squadron of fighters down to Yemen, which, by the way, just so you understand, that is farther than get into Iran. Yemen, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, I didn't check it recently, but my memory tells me that it's quite the distance. We're talking about, if I recall, about 1,400, 1,500 kilometers. Correct me in the comments. I want to see if you're paying attention. And it's a serious mission. It's not just hopping next door into Lebanon or into the Gaza Strip. But anyways, all the planes returned safely. What was their mission? Their mission was to take out the 3 major ports controlled by the Houthi rebels in Hudaydah, in Sana'a, and the third one is one that I hadn't heard before. It's called Arasa, if I recall correctly. And we demolished the different technological aspects of the port itself, such as the cranes and the piers, in order to, 1, hurt their economy, but 2, also make it more difficult for them to receive more armaments from Iran. And additionally, besides that, power plants were hit. And consequently, many areas in that part of Yemen, the western part of Yemen, were without electricity, and there were some casualties as well. Now, obviously, I feel sorry, and it's a tragedy that anyone innocent suffers, but it would be nice if the people in charge of that country were to make the choice to stop attacking international shipping lanes and attacking Israel. Hopefully they'll get the message. We'll have to wait and see. So that is what happened today between Israel and Yemen. And this has been going on for a year, but Israel has only attacked Yemen, I believe, 3 times in the last year, maybe only twice even. We're really trying to respect the request of others that they handle it and not us. But we'll see how it develops. Now, quickly, briefly, for those of you who, like me, don't really understand what's going on in South Korea, I had the fortune to speak with 3 Korean brothers and sisters a few days ago and understood a little bit more. From what I understand is that the parliament has indeed voted to impeach the president, and with the necessary 2/3 majority vote. And what that means is the process now starts. It doesn't mean he is impeached, he's no longer president. It means that an impeachment process starts, and it will end with the Constitutional Court of South Korea making a decision whether the impeachment will go through or not, hopefully based on objective facts. And once they make that decision, then either he will be impeached or he will go back to his being the president with his full authority. At this point in time, I understand that part of his authority has been delegated to a deputy of sorts during the impeachment process. So that's just an additional tidbit of information. And with that, I'd like to thank you very much for tuning in, for viewing, and for joining, and for commenting and participating with us. And God bless you all. Shalom.